Time magazine is out this morning with its Time 100 list of the world's most influential people. Global leaders like President Trump and China's Xi Jinping are in the company of athletes, entertainers, and an architect philanthropist. Melinda Gates graces one of the 5 covers of this issue. She's joined by Jeff Bezos, Viola Davis, and Riz Ahmed. Also, John Legend. The editor-in-chief, Nancy Gibbs, joins us now. Good morning.
Good morning.
One more time for anybody who has not followed this every year.
Or in a cave.
Or in a cave, yes. Or both.
Yes.
How do you select them? What are you looking for?
It's a year-long conversation where we're keeping track not just of people who are powerful in traditional senses, but people who are fascinating, who are moving the needle in whatever different field.
For good or bad?
For good or bad. It's, the power is a tool. Influence is a skill. It's a different kind of effect that they have on what we talk about, what we focus on, what we're interested in. And so there are people on the list who are very traditionally famous, of heads of state and CEOs. But then there are people, a lot of people will have never heard of, who are acting in their realms in ways that are sure to be enormously potent for years to come.
You always say, Nancy, that there are no automatics, although you think if you're president of the United States or China or the Pope, you've got a pretty good shot at being on the list.
You do. It's not every year, but they have, I would say that they've got an edge.
But the Trump administration is well represented this year. You've got 5 people from the Trump administration on the list.
Well, anytime you've got a new administration, we're watching these people very closely. But in this case, they came in with so little, in most cases, with so little experience in government and such a promise through the campaign that they were going to blow it up anyway, that we knew that things were not going to be the same in the West Wing as they have been before. And indeed, that is one of the promises that has been kept in the course of the first 100 days. And so we're watching them, even as, the West Wing is likened to a kind of Game of Thrones atmosphere. But each of them is influential in a way, not just their own role, but in how we think about public service and the role of advisors to the president.
I think what's so brilliant about it, too, not only the list and who you choose, and it spans athletes, science, actors, politicians, the gamut, as who you choose to write about them.
The pairings.
Jared Kushner, who has taken on an outsized role at the White House. Henry Kissinger writes about him and says, we have sporadically exchanged views. Really interesting, sort of his brief take on Kushner's influence.
So, Kissinger has watched a lot of administrations come and go, and he understands the thermodynamics of the White House as well as anyone. And I'm interested that he ends his
thermodynamics
piece with a little bit of a warning about, Kushner as he flies close to the sun. Now, we've already seen some of the people around President Trump already have their wings, burned and melt. So I think that was both, a tribute to the fact that Kushner is navigating very, very difficult territory.
Elton John on James Corden.
Elton John and James Corden, who, Corden was very well known in the UK for his role in various sitcoms like Gavin and Stacey. Here, he, until he took over the Late Late Show, I'm not sure that people really knew him. But in a year like this, especially someone who doesn't just make us smile, but makes us sing.
James Corden's had a great year.
It's particularly welcome.
Made the list. I'm very excited about that. Listen, she's had a great year, but next year when she does Wrinkle in Time for Disney, it's going to be huge.
Incredible.
But it's so great she made the list. You chose her. Why?
Well, like Barry Jenkins, also on the list.
Director of Moonlight.
We're seeing these incredibly versatile directors who are also writers, producers. Jordan Peele with Get Out, same thing, where they are leaving their mark in their medium by being multi-talented in ways that are just extraordinary.
But not only Tom Brady, also Colin Kaepernick.
So there we have 2 athletes, 2 quarterbacks, one of whom is there very much for what he did on the field in Tom Brady's extraordinary, Super Bowl triumph, and one for what he did next to the field in the way Colin Kaepernick invited a different conversation about the nature of patriotism and protest in this country.
Pope Francis is the only religious leader, right, to make the list, and there's a question now about whether Trump will see him in Italy coming up in the coming weeks.
That will be very interesting to see. I think, Charlie, you remember when we met him in the fall. I think everyone is struck by this incredible global figure who the first words out of his mouth, are "Pray for me."
Yeah.
The way he has captured the imagination of people far beyond people who would normally follow the pronouncements coming out of the Vatican. I think as a global moral leader on the environment, on the refugee crisis, on income inequality, really, he continues to make his voice heard far beyond the pulpit that he would normally.
We have to go, Nancy, but could I just point out that Charlie Rose made the list? You feel the greatness, don't you?
He is indeed one of our great Time 100 alumni.
We feel that too.
Yeah. Love it. It's such a good issue with different covers, which is great too. Everybody will see a different
John
cover.
Legend.
Thank you.
I love this.
Nancy Gibbs, always great to have you here. Thank you so much.